So welcome everyone. Bienvenue à Barrhaven tout le monde. My name is Barbara Ramsey and I am the chair of the Community Association for Environmental Sustainability, one of the organizations comprising the People's Official Plan, which is responsible for organizing this mayoral discussion and the entire series of debates. As Angela's already pointed out, I live in Canada and I chair the Canada Green Space Protection Coalition, and it's not the only one. Barrhaven has already experienced this issue twice now, and I think it's gonna percolate across the city as it percolates across the province. So I'm probably gonna see more of you, not less of you. I am the moderator for today's event, and I welcome 8 of the 13 City of Ottawa mayoral candidates here today. We are grateful to all of them and each of them as they find time in what is a very busy few months to talk with us and with you and with each other, specifically about the environment and eco-climate justice. I will perform my function in English today. However, all candidates and audience participants are encouraged to participate in the national language of your choice. Candidates, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourselves, and we ask you and have asked them in advance to address the following in their opening statements. Barrhaven has grown significantly in recent years, but has struggled to do so in an environmentally responsible fashion. The new neighborhoods don't support a 15-minute neighborhood vision. The lack of tree canopy has created a heat island effect. What would you have council do differently to address the climate crisis and protect the quality of life in the suburbs with equity in mind? I introduce you to Brendan Bay.
Hi, everyone. My name's Brendan Bay. I want to thank the People's Official Plan Group for hosting us tonight, and thank all of you for being here. I've spent a lot of time in Barrhaven. Several of my friends and my mother live here, and I lived nearby in Bell's Corners for 5 years. I see a lot of potential in it, and there's, it's a lovely residential community now, but Barbara's right to say that it's not a 15-minute neighborhood vision. It's a little incomplete. And south of the Jock River in particular, the new developments, there's almost nothing but houses there. I've been hearing from residents across the city on the campaign trail that they're worried about the unbearable cost of housing, the embarrassing and painful state of transit, and their fears about the future of employment and tonight's topic, climate change. All of these things are related, and a large part of the solution to all of them is to invest in our communities. And that starts with housing. Ottawa is expected to grow by 500,000 people over the next 25 years, which translates to 200,000 new homes. And depending on how you run the numbers, we're already facing a deficit of 50 to 80,000 homes. And Barrhaven and Riverside South have been and are going to continue to be a large part of that growth. And this growth is going to have an impact on our local climate, the land that we lose to build the homes, the way that people that move in move around, and the environments that we build for them. Council then should focus its energy on ensuring we build sustainable, complete communities. If we have everything we need close to home, we win on all fronts. Communities grow closer and feel friendlier and safer. Tourists flock to all corners of the city and spend money on local businesses there. Driving cars will happen less frequently and over shorter distances. And we have to build communities that people don't need to commute out of. When new homes are built, we should be insisting on the highest standards. Communities should build from the get-go with all the necessary amenities and great pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure alongside that for cars. We should be lining our streets and parks with trees to fight the heat island effect and perhaps even insist on minimum tree counts on private lawns. Investing in our communities is about building great places to live and raise families, about protecting our natural environment, and with so many jobs now online, about creating a place that remote employees can thrive and the world's employers want to hire.
As mayor, what are the key actions council should pursue in the next 4 years to transition to zero carbon emissions? How will you work with Ottawa's suburbs and rural areas on reducing emissions while maintaining quality of life? Next, Brendan Bay.
Thank you, Barbara. To add on to what Catherine and Param were saying, the city has identified that the biggest emitter locally is personal vehicles. And that means our focus should be removing the need for personal vehicles. In a neighborhood like Quinns Point, for example, you have no choice but to own and drive a car. And we need to give residents that choice. We need to build the rest of the neighborhood. Grocery stores, medical clinics, restaurants, shopping, office spaces. The existing plans call for a transformation of Marketplace into a dense downtown core, but Barrhaven is large and it's going to need more than just one. We need to do more. Once we have these complete community citywide, policies that encourage green behavior and discourage high emission behavior are the best way forward at that point. At that time, if we want to target personal vehicles, we can install more electrical vehicle charging stations like Param was saying, and remove the gas stations to discourage emitting vehicles. We can, at that time, explore free transit and fund it with higher parking rates and park and ride fees that discourage driving at all. But we need to focus on communities first. And by the city's estimates, modernizing buildings and eliminating or electrifying transportation is going to account for 75% of all of the emissions that we need to reduce. This needs to be the focus, and it needs to be done in a way that builds incredible neighborhoods for every resident.
As mayor, would you seek council support to pursue a civil lawsuit against large oil, coal, and gas companies to help pay for increasing city costs related to climate emergencies and destruction, such as Vancouver and 20 other cities in the U.S. are doing now? Brendan Bay.
Thank you. So much like the other no's, I do support the idea of retribution payments from the fossil fuel industry, one of the biggest drivers of climate change itself and the biggest advocate against doing anything about it. But I just don't think it seems prudent to take this fight at the municipal level right now. If the federal government wanted to lead the charge, that would be great for all of us. If Vancouver won, I would happily see Ottawa bring a lawsuit of our own, or if it became a class action suit, I'd gladly see us included in the class. But I don't think it's a good use of our time and resources right now to focus on an unlikely source of one-time funds when there's so many other things Ottawa can do to make an immediate impact on our climate.
As the pressures of extreme weather conditions and urban development increase locally and globally, how should Ottawa protect lands needed for farming, incentivize best agricultural practices, and reduce pollution? And a follow-up, although I probably should give you guys a follow-up. How can Ottawa significantly increase the share of locally produced, seasonal, healthy foods available for consumption by residents? Brendan Bay.
Thank you. Ottawa is already well positioned to be a leader in the future of urban farming, and we need to nurture the pioneers that we already have and encourage others to take up the mantle. There's a company in the Invest Ottawa Accelerator right now called Grocer that's building hydroponic farms that are put into shipping containers. And they're building them primarily to support agriculture in the Canadian North and other deserts around the world. But there's absolutely no reason we can't be leveraging that technology here in Ottawa and other ag tech advances like vertical farming. Allowing and encouraging home production as well, such as home gardens or backyard chicken coops like a lot of other cities around the world do, or even pollinator-friendly wildflower lawns would go a long way. And denser areas without space for many private gardens can follow the great example we've got with the Kilbourne allotment garden. But instead, today, we have oppressive bylaws for animal control and lawn standards, which limit the options that individuals have to make an impact. We can also plant more fruiting trees and bushes around the city, and partner with volunteer-based groups like Hidden Harvest to collect the fruit, and with local canneries and restaurants to share the produce with the city, which would allow more food to be grown locally with very little effort or expense on the part of the city. Lastly, we need to make sure that we protect the agricultural land that we have today, especially while urban growing tech is still in its infancy. We need to focus our city's growth as much as possible on intensification, protecting what we have, and building better communities.
Hello. So I have a question regarding something candidate Bay said. So you mentioned adding fees for park and rides. Do you think that encourages or discourages people to take public transportation? And I would also like to invite people who took the opposite perspective and were pro-free transportation to join in on that conversation. So candidate Ade and candidate Celine.
Mike.
Are we on? Okay. I'd like to say first that I don't think we should heavily increase the price of park and rides alone. That should be along with providing free transit as a means of recovering the fare. The idea is to move the price somewhere else so that we don't have to charge for the ride of the bus or the train so that you can take it from your home to downtown or wherever you're going for free, and then recoup the costs elsewhere rather than raising everybody's property taxes. So the park and ride idea is to, encourage people to take transit, but if they need to drive to get there, if that's what they choose in the first place, that we do take some of that cost back and recover the infrastructure costs that they're contributing to our city by driving that way. And, maybe it also encourages them to carpool so that they can split that cost and, again, reduce the cars on the road. So that's the thought behind that.
It's time for closing statements. Brendan Bay.
Thank you. I think there's a lot we agree on. No one wants to see the climate emergency worsen, bringing more tornadoes and derechos and floods and snowstorms and heat waves and droughts. Nobody wants to lose the incredibly valuable green space that we have, which has been so helpful to our collective mental health over the last couple of years. No one wants to lose the agricultural land and wind up in a food emergency, and the supply chain disruptions we've seen lately have made this all, personal for us. No public servants or software developers or other remote office workers want to be dragged back into their offices, and no one wants to see our homeless community face 10-year waits for somewhere to live. And working together, we can do our part to avoid all of that just by investing in our communities. We can do it without significant tax hikes. We can do it without major disruptions to our way of life, but we have to welcome the change. Thank you.